Nollywood gets a lot of things right, especially when it comes to technical stuff. We have the best gaffers, we have the best cinematographers, we have the best editors, but we actually do not have the best writers because we have not created an environment for the best writers to thrive. I'm a writer, I'm a screenwriter, copywriter, content writer, all kinds of writing. So what led me to this was I wrote the sequel to Living in Bondage.
That's right.
2018 years? Yes, exactly. And then I think it came out in 2019. And afterwards, I would get a lot of like young writers sending me messages, asking me to mentor them. And I'm like, I don't know how to mentor anybody. I need a mentor, you know? So I just felt like there was no real community for writers. And then so I started something called the Writers Room, which ended up morphing into Write Good Stories. And so the whole thing is just like really kind of supporting writers and their craft, because it's really hard to write a story and it's harder to write a good story.
Yes.
And so I found that in Nollywood, they always rush the writing process. They're kind of like, oh, we're shooting, we need a script in 3 weeks. And it's like, you can't write a good script, in 3 weeks. So what does it take to develop meaningful characters? What does it take to create compelling stories that people can resonate with? It takes time. It takes a real attention to the science of screenwriting. So knowing that a movie is 90 minutes, meaning that is 1 page a minute. So there's certain things you have to do within the time frame of a screenplay in order to hit the pointers. So sometimes when you watch a film and it's dragging, it's because the writer didn't hit the points that they're supposed to hit. So yeah, that's basically why we're here.
So you mentioned the writers' room, right? How is that different from the Write Good Stories?
So the writers' room was more like a community, and it was more like support, like just engagement. So we had like a discussion board website, kind of like Reddit, but for writers. So people would just come and like write like, oh, create their own threads and say, oh, I'm having a problem with this screenplay, or I'm having an issue with my characters, or what are the 5 best books on screenwriting I can read. So it's kind of like a place for, dialogue and community. But what was missing was craft, was education, was actually teaching people. It's one thing to inspire people, it's another thing to teach people. And I think that requires a very hands-on approach. So yeah.
So this writers' room, like when did that happen, and when did you decide, okay, like was there a point, was there something that happened that you felt like, okay, I know you mentioned just now that there was no education, it was just more like a forum that people could talk, but when did you decide that, at what point, what exactly made you decide that this is going to happen? And I've seen workshops in Nollywood for writers. How is it different from those kind of workshops that we see every time? Even for Afrif recently, there was still writing workshops. So
I think the difference is that those are like one-off. So like Afrif came and there was a workshop. I think the last one was led by an amazing screenwriter, Tunde Babalola, right? So, but I believe it was a 1-day workshop. 1 day, 2 day max. So what you can achieve in 1 to 2 days is good, but it doesn't really have that longevity. So having a space where you can have 12 weeks of time to really develop a story is kind of invaluable, because you can take your time, whereas like with workshops it's kind of rushed because you want to get all the knowledge immediately as opposed to like pacing it. So we're supported by the Osa Okumbo Foundation, TUF. They're a non-profit that supports the creative arts in Nigeria, and so they supported the writers with 3 million naira each as a development grant.
I got the email that I was part of the cohort for the first cohort. Actually, it was I was expecting literally the same thing, but when I got here, the lab, the whole classes, and Nicole gave us a really explosive session. And we developed some stories that thankfully they loved. And we weren't really expecting that they would call us back, but eventually we got a call back. And when we came back, the whole sessions we have had so far, and the grants that was given to us, thankfully to Osal Kumbo Foundation as well, it's just something that we never really expected, and we're grateful for.
It feels like I'm being brought from an old world into a new world. And I mean, new experience, exciting experience, and of course, more knowledge.
How do we also set new standards for the industry? So there are people that are getting paid like 150K for a script.
I know.
That's bullshit.
It is.
Okay. So how can we say that we actually believe in stories enough to actually empower people so that they can actually, instead of doing 1 million side jobs, so if we can give them a development grant so they're not distracted and so that they can focus on the story.
We've had like an extensive amount of time to really build story. Today we're mapping up the act one and everything just went so easy because we've spent like the last 3 weeks or so just world building, understanding the characters, understanding the world that they are set in, understanding their motivations, their goals, their wants. So it's just really easy.
I'll give you some background how we even selected the writers. So we had a workshop, a free workshop for 9 writers. We put out a blast on Instagram basically saying, tell us why you should be selected for this writing workshop. And we got 70 responses, over 70 responses within 2 days, right?
Wow.
And so we then looked through the responses and we picked the ones that really felt like they were so passionate about writing and stories. So we picked these 9 writers, and then we had I think it was like 6-hour workshop, so 1-day workshop, and it was about outlining, like from idea to outline, right? And just basically taking the process, taking them through that process. So during the workshop, we split them into 3 groups. So 3 groups, 3 each, 9 writers. And so each group we gave them a prompt based on existing stories that we have in-house.
Okay.
Right? So, but they were very like general. So the prompt we gave this group was a woman's routine fibroid surgery results in her death.
Oh.
Right? So this group that is the cohort, they basically, and each group basically were given different prompts to write. And so they went and they had their breakout rooms and then they worked on the stories. And then at the end of the workshop, they presented their ideas to 2 Nollywood actors. So Sunshine Roseman and Buchi Franklin came and then they presented their ideas. And when they were presenting this idea that they're working on now, everybody in the room was like where they took the story was like just amazing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Just a couple hours.
Yeah, in just a couple hours. So we were even Buchi and Sunshine were like, we're ready to act in the film. And to be honest, it should be them because I don't know, it just kind of matches, So, well, actually now we're thinking it's going to be set in Ibadan, so it might not be them because we need Yoruba speakers. But still, just that magic of that time. So now the fact that they're creating this, they now have time to work on this story. So it's their story. It's it came from us, but it's really them that developed the story. So in addition to the grant, they're going to get story credits.
Wow.
And then if they write, which the workroom ends in a screenplay, the 12 weeks. So they're supposed to actually write. So as they write, they will get writing credits. If they complete, some writers just fall off the wagon. That will not happen to any of our writers in Jesus' name. They will finish. We, as Write Good Stories, we're actually a production company, which most people don't know. But the idea and the dream is to produce the films that we actually create from the lab. So we will produce it.
We had this conversation recently about talent management. And one of the things that we saw in one of those conversations that David Van Wert highlighted is, sometimes a lot of times in Hollywood and other industries, they create stories for a particular talent, right? Which was like, for example, Funke is a good example of that in Nollywood. So the films she makes are for herself, so she writes the script for herself to continue to push herself in the image that she wanted. So is that something that write good story? Because I'm curious, like, okay, after this cohort, what's going to be the plan? I mean, maybe there'll be a cohort too, but what kind of stories will be coming out? Are they global? Are you trying to, where are you trying to push all of that? I know this is a lot I'm packing, but I just want to pick your brain on all
So
of
we have, it's a good question. We have pillars that we operate under, different pillars. There are many, but some of them would be like social pillars. So like trying to highlight like infrastructural challenges or poverty elevation or health issues, so things that are under society, and then like human interest, and then like things that promote history, so maybe like old football glory films or Biafran biopics or just different things that kind of like promote history. So we have different pillars, but ultimately the golden thread through all of our pillars is characters. So we want character-driven storytelling. And so when we look at the characters that we're trying to speak to, we want everyday Nigerian characters, right? So a lot of the stories are not necessarily going to be like fantastical, but really like stories that are rooted in truth and honesty and relatability and authenticity. I think if I was going to take a page out of somebody's book, it wouldn't be Hollywood, it would be Korea. And it would be just like that kind of relatability and that kind of human interest. I think those are the most powerful kind of stories. And I don't think you need to tell a big story to tell a good story. So small stories can still have a lot of impact. So that's kind of what we're driving at.
I know you say you're a production company, but still thinking about that, pushing the stories, right? Like, is there from your end, is there like any plan for, okay, we're going to push this beyond just we're making Nigerian stories for Nigerian filmmaking? Is there a plan? You know, I know you go abroad a lot, so are you working on that? Are you trying to push that? Okay, these are Nigerian writers writing for, you know, a foreign production or something like that. Is there any?
So honestly, I feel like do the work and whatever comes will come. Right? So I never want to create with a lens of global success. I think that quality speaks for itself. And I think that if you create from a place of authenticity, then your reach will be beyond borders. So I just want to tell authentic stories, and then whatever God's plan is what will happen. I don't really have a plan of world domination.
I think that's honest. I like that.
Yeah.
So now thinking about the storytelling in Nigeria today, I want your honest opinion. Like, what do you think is the, you know, when you look at storytelling on TV, we don't have a lot of TV series, but you know, especially our film. What do you genuinely think? What is missing? Where do we always miss?
I think it's the authenticity. I think we get carried away with the things and the showing and the things, but the core of the people and that characters should be real. So I think when we're watching things and it doesn't feel like you've met this person before, and it doesn't feel like this person has the same struggle as you,
I feel that.
right? So it's the there's a just and it can happen to anyone. Like, so when we show a senator, we show him, his shoulders are up, he comes out of the car, he goes home, he's drinking a whiskey and he has a cigar. Who says that's what they do? We just assume, right? And we don't bring in the humanity. I want to see the senator in his boxers and, scared that he has, I don't know, a wart on his penis because he's been philandering
Yeah, he's been messing
and
around.
he's been messing around and he's scared that he might have a health issue, right? I want to see him having bad dreams for the things he's done, like those kind of things that are true, like that happen, right?
Table stuff.
Prostate cancer happens to what I read some statistics, like 68% of men over 50 or something like that. Those men are actually scared when they go to the bathroom and it hurts.
Yeah.
Let's see the interior lives of people. We show a lot of exterior. But in order for you to show the interior life of a person, you have to treat them as a person. So how do you do that? You do character development, you do workshops, you talk about it. I saw a video once of like a writer's room for the Oscars, and there was a writer's room with like 20 writers, all pitching ideas, pitching jokes, and they were like, no, not that one, and they'll pitch another one, pitch another one, pitch another one. And I was like, just for a 60-minute show? You have this kind of dialogue?
For Oscars, not even for...
Just for the Oscars.
Oh, wow.
Right? So like how are you dialogue? Even today, I proposed so many things for the opening scene and everybody was like, what about this? What about this? What about that? And we didn't get it, but we didn't push it. And everybody was, for the session we had today, everybody was pushing different ideas. And I pushed something that I really liked. And one of the writers was like, but actually, if you do it like this, it's going to affect something else. And I'm like, it's true. And we didn't crack it. We left it. We'll come back again. So I think that's what's missing from the storytelling. We're not coming back again because there's no time. If a producer is saying, we have to shoot, we have to shoot, we have to shoot. It's like this. How can you write? How can you write me?
No, you can't write.
They're always choking us. How can you write?
Yeah.
So this is a place, a space of safety, a space of time, a space where you can actually put out your bad ideas and wait and refine it until it's good.
When you met, you mentioned earlier that a lot of people were reaching out to you, a lot of the young writers were reaching out to you. So what do you think is a major challenge? I know you mentioned just now how the time is a big constraint, but besides the time, short time that writers have in Nollywood, usually, what's the major challenge you can point at? Like one major challenge I think is, and how are you addressing that with writers that the write good stories?
I think the major challenge is craft. I think that people do not know what it takes to write a well-structured screenplay with well-developed characters. I think that people do not take the time to learn it. I think that producers do not take the time to demand it. You cannot demand what you don't even know. So there is a fundamental lack of understanding and respect for storytelling. So until we do our research, until we understand that you can't just have a good idea and flip it into a phenomenal screenplay, until you realize that you cannot fix the holes when you're shooting. A lot of directors think you can do that. Or when impulse. Is the editor a magician? If you did not develop the character, how is he going to cut it and slice it for it to make sense? Yeah. So we get a lot of things right. Nollywood gets a lot of things right, especially when it comes to technical stuff. We have the best gaffers, we have the best cinematographers, we have the best editors, but we actually do not have the best writers because we have not created an environment for the best writers to thrive.